Hello everyone, this is Denise from Something Beautiful Handcrafts, and as you can see, I've been to the fabric store. I did go to Joann's, and I found some fabrics I thought would go well for this spring collection. So I'm going to go ahead and make the first few samples. So I kind of had a bit of time trying to decide what I wanted to look like. So I went through a couple different patterns, pulled pieces of those patterns from here or there. And here's what I've decided. So I'm going to have the skirt, and I think I'm going to make the skirt from the yellow pattern. And then there's, of course, going to be a blouse, some type of blouse. And I'm going to use the white. And for the jumper dress, I'm going to use this gold here. Well, it's a white with the gold. They're kind of like square diamond dot kind of things, but they're really cute. And this is a nice cotton fabric. It's just heavy enough that the skirt and the dress will have a little form, but not so heavy that it's going to be too stiff. Now all the cutting is done and the table is a hot mess, and I'm going to go ahead and get the machine ready and get started. I've got a ton of dolls still on top of the machine for making the video about the sweaters, and at some point I need to post that. Hopefully you will see that before this one. So the question is, did I use patterns? And the answer to that is yes. Am I going to follow the directions on the pattern? And of course the answer to that is no. A lot of times when I use patterns, I basically only use them for scale direction, just for fit. Especially a lot of times it's easier to use a pattern for fit than to mock up my own pattern, because then, like I said, then you have to mock it up and make sure the fit is correct. If I want a particular bodice, it's faster to take an established bodice that has already been fit and graded for the particular doll, and then I can go ahead and cut out my fabric and make the adjustments. Of course, when you're talking about people, it doesn't quite work that way, because patterns are made for, they have like a range, and then you have to tailor them specifically for people, even when you take all the measurements and make your little lines and try to match everything up. With the dolls, it's a little better because they're fairly standard. At one point, I was measuring all of my dolls, and for the most part, they're pretty standard. So I can just cut it and fix anything I need in the actual seams. So I'm pretty confident about cutting it and using it for the actual size without having to mock up in this case. So it's faster. That's what I'm trying to say, is a lot of times it's just faster to have a basic pattern in hand and go from there. But of course, I'm not going to even bother to follow the pattern. I've done this enough times. And for instance, like this is a skirt. I'm making a skirt, but it's not a skirt. It's actually the bottom half of one of the dresses. So I didn't need the top at all. I just wanted this shape for the bottom. And I'm not going to put any markings on it, because I am going to do the gathering and the pin tucks and all that stuff where I want them myself. I just wanted this particular basic shape without me having to, figure out the proportions. So we have our skirt. Pull up so you can see it. And then the headbands. I'm not going to follow the directions for the headbands either. I just needed that pattern for the particular sizing. They look like they match that wonderfully. And then the short sleeve dress. And what I decided to do is that originally this dress was not no sleeves or short sleeve. It had two sleeves on the side. It's supposed to. And it's supposed to be trimmed with bias tape and then ruffled at the bottom. So I'm skipping the ruffle. And instead of using the bias tape for the top, I actually made a facing. And I made the facing from the top halves of the pieces. And I'm going to take the facing, turn it under a quarter of an inch so it'll have a nice clean seam. And then I will put it inside of this right here. And so this dress will have a facing and it'll give me the clean edges on the side without the bias tape. It seemed that the bias tape to me, well, for what I'm doing with this dress and the material that I used, seemed a little more bulky than I wanted to. And then we have the shirt. So everything is all ready to go on the sewing machine. I just have to go ahead and get it all cleaned up. See how we're going so far? The lining is on. All of the edges are clean. Now what I'm doing here is I'm going to French seam. So basically, if you're not familiar with it, this is like a really simplified explanation. But I am going to create a seam on the right side of the fabric. Then I'm going to turn the fabric to the wrong side. I'm going to encase that seam and then run a seam down the wrong side of the fabric, which is how you normally make seams. That way, when you look inside the fabric, you'll see it like this. The seam will be encased. So the garment will look pretty much seamless. And the only place in this actual piece where you'll be able to see the seam is this little seam right here, which I had planned to turn completely under so that it's like a rolled hem. So yeah, it'll be like that. So when I do this seam down here, that seam too will be encased.